This is part 2 of the video on mid-segments. Remember, a mid-segment of a triangle is a segment that connects the midpoints of two sides of a triangle. Okay, so let's scroll down to the theorem. All right. So here's the theorem, and what the theorem says is that a mid-segment of a triangle is parallel to the third side, and it is half as long as that side. Now when that happens, we have parallel lines cut by transversal. Okay, and the angles that are created are, we will have corresponding angles, which are congruent, and then we'll have same side interior angles that are supplementary. So in this picture here, if this is a mid-segment, okay, so those are midpoints. So if I connect that and create a mid-segment, this side is parallel to this side. And this side is twice as long as the other side. And since we have a midpoint here, then whatever the measure of this is and this, it's the same because this is a midpoint. And this segment is also the same measure. So we're going to have those three segments that are the same, and then we also have the parallel lines cut by the transversal. So in this picture we will also have corresponding angles, these two, which would be congruent, or on the other side it would be this one, and then we have same side interior angles. So this one and this one would be supplementary. Over here, this one and this one. It's a little easier to see when we just look at one mid-segment. I know in the last video we had 3 in one picture, and it gets a little convoluted with all the different lines drawn. But usually we might be able to isolate it to one, and that will help. Okay, so now we're going to go down to where we dropped off in the last video, and I believe it was on example 3. Okay, so in example 3, what we're given here is that we have, they tell us that A, B, and C are midpoint, so we know we have mid-segments. They give us a measure of AB, which is 5y minus 9, and they give us the measure of GJ, which is negative y plus 4. So what we need to understand is that this is a mid-segment of this is a third side, and so AB is half as long as GJ. So what we need to do to solve for y is we need to take the mid-segment and multiply it times 2, and it is equal to the third side. Okay, and then we just have an algebra problem. So we have 10y minus 18 equals negative y plus 4. If we add y to both sides, we get 11y minus 18 equals 4. I'm sorry for my writing. Then if we add 4 to both sides, we get 11y is equal to 22, and we divide by 11, and we get y is equal to 2. Okay, now they ask us for y, they also ask us for CJ. So when we ask for CJ, we need to look, and CJ is right here. So there's a couple different ways we can do it, but what we need to understand is, since this is a midpoint, that these two are the same measure, and since AB is half of this, those 3 segments here are all the same. So we can just take 2 and substitute it right here. So we get 5 times 2 minus 9, and we get 1. So CJ is 1. If you want to check, you can also go and substitute it in here. And remember, this is the whole length. So if we substitute 2 here, we get negative 2 plus 4 is equal to 2. And that makes sense, because if the whole thing is 2, half of that is 1, and that means that all those segments are 1. Okay? So for the quick check, you should pause the video and try and do the quick check yourself. Okay. Hopefully you paused it, and what you saw is that we are given the length of AC, which is a mid-segment, and then we're giving the length of HJ, which is the third side. So we multiply 2 times the mid-segment, and that's equal to the third side, and you should have gotten x is equal to 4. And then to get the measurement of HJ, you simply take the value x is equal to 4 and substitute it into the equation, and you should have got HJ is equal to 14. Okay. So let's look at what comes next, and we're going to look at example 4. So example 4, here we're talking about angles. So they give us the measure of GAB. So look where that angle is. GAB is right here, and they give us the measure of HGJ, which is right here. Okay, so remember that in this triangle with the mid-segments, because of the parallel lines, we're going to have either corresponding angles or same side interior angles. Now if you want to look at them, these would be my parallel lines, and this would be my transversal. So these angles here are same side interior angles, which means they are supplementary. So you just need to decide if they're supplementary or if they're congruent. If they're supplementary, that means when I add the 2 of these, which is 3x plus 5, to 6x minus 14, it has to equal 180 degrees, because supplementary angles add up to 180 degrees. And then we simply just do the algebra. Okay? And so if you do the algebra here, you should get x is equal to 21. And then go back, and they also ask you for the measure of GAB. And so GAB is 6x minus 14, so you simply substitute 21. So 6 times 21 minus 14. You get 126 minus 14 is 112. If you want to further check your work, which is a really good idea, we know that these 2 angles have to add up to 180. So let's go ahead and take 21 and substitute it into the other equation. 3 times 21 plus 5, and you get 68. And look and make sure that 68 and 112 add up to 180, and they do. So again, you should pause the video now and try and do the quick check yourself. Okay. Now, if you paused your video, hopefully you have solved this, but here's the picture that you get. We have parallel lines, and we have a transversal. And when we look at the angles GHJ and here's GHJ and JBC, what we find is that these are congruent angles because they are corresponding angles. So if they're corresponding, you set them equal to each other. You solve, and I get x is 38 degrees. Now they also ask for the measure of GHJ, so we simply substitute 38, and we get that GHJ is 54 degrees. Again, if you want to check your math, since they're equal, we can also take this and substitute 38. And we would have 2 times 38 minus 22, and that should also give us 54, and it does. So we know that we have solved the equation correctly. Okay, we are going to skip example 5 and go down to the last example, which is 6. Okay, in this picture here, they ask us first to draw a right triangle, and they give us the measurements here, or the points. So A is 10, 0. So this is A. Okay, so I drew the triangle ABC. A is 10, 0, B is 0, 8, and C is 0, 0. Now they want us to write the equation of AB in slope-intercept form. Well, that is y is equal to mx plus b. Well, m is your slope, and b is your y-intercept. Well, if you look at this picture, we can see where AB touches y. It touches y at 8. And so we already have y is equal to, the only thing missing is the slope, because we have this much. So we just need to rise over run to find the slope. So we go up 8, and we go to the left 10, so left is negative, so we get rise over run, and we can simplify that to negative 4 over 5. The next thing they ask us to do is to find the midpoints of AC and BC. Well, that's easy enough since it's on the x-axis. Halfway from 0 to 10 is 5, and halfway from 0 to 8 is 4. So this is our mid-segment. And then if we're going to create it, we draw it. Then they ask us to write the equation of that line as well. Now we should know that these lines are parallel, but we can check the slope. And again, if you go up 4 and to the left 5. So the equation of this line, DE, is y is equal to negative 4 over 5x. And then where does it cross y? Well, right here at 4. So here's the equation of that line. And what we look for is that the definition of parallel lines is they have the same slope and a different y-intercept. So please try and pause your video, and I'm going to scroll down to the next one and do the last one yourself. Okay, so here it is, and here are the points, and so I'm going to pause, and please try and finish this one yourself. And number 6 asks you to write the equation of the mid-segment. Okay, here's a triangle. So now we're going to write the equation. So what we do is, oh, I forgot. There is a mistake here. They ask us for the equation of AB. So I don't know how many of you actually did that, but AB is this line right here. And so the equation of this line is x is equal to 0. But I don't think that's what they meant. I think they meant to ask us for the equation of AC. So let's look at that. The equation of AC, it crosses y at 8. And so we just need the slope. So if we do rise over run, we go up 8. So that's a positive 8. And we go to the right 6. It's a positive 6. 8 over 6 is simplified to 4 over 3. So the equation is y is equal to 4/3 x plus 8. And then if we find the midpoints, we're at 3 and 4. Again, this line is parallel to this line, so the equation is y is equal to 4/3 x, and where does it cross y? At 4. Okay, so if you have issues with this, please send me an email and let me know, and I'll try and help you. Thank you.